Hey everybody, good evening and welcome to this presentation tonight. This is Josie Tong, broadcasting from Sydney. So tonight's presentation is part two of our three-part series training from Raman Chen, Diamond Director based in Sydney. Last week's training on prospecting and inviting received an overwhelming yes response from hundreds of associates. That's based on their comments and the number of people who watched the replay on YouTube. So really, we are so grateful to have Raman doing this series of presentation. As I said last week, I learned my initial basic skills, and really I learned a lot of my skills from Raman. And he's just a great mentor, a great trainer, he's just a great leader as well. So ladies and gentlemen, without much further ado, let's hear it from Raman Chen about presenting and handling objection. Thank you, Raman, and welcome.
Fantastic. Can everyone hear me? Awesome. So yeah, this is going to be part two of the three-part training series. So last week we talked a lot about the prospecting process and how to actually invite someone. And so this is going to be basic training 202, second module of level 2 training, where we move on into what to do once you get somebody there. So now you've invited them. Hopefully you've done the prospecting and the inviting process properly, insofar as you've already found a hot button. So this training that we're going today is precedented on that fact that you've done the entire invite process properly. So we're going to talk a little bit about the actual presenting now. So once you get somebody there, what's going to happen? All right. And then of course, afterwards, I'm going to talk about objection handling, which is one of the biggest things, I guess, in training. Most people wonder, how do I handle this objection? How do I handle that objection? Etc., etc., etc. Okay, so first and foremost, let's move into the presenting. When to present, what are the respective roles of the ABC, which I will talk a little bit more about what ABC means, how to actually present, and of course, how to close at the end of the presentation itself. Now, as I'm going through, if you guys have any questions or whatnot that you wish to ask, just make sure you do ask. Josie will be keeping track of those and will be presenting them to me at the end. So, and yeah, I'll be asking you guys questions as well. So let's move right ahead. So when to actually present? Well, very, very simple. After you've actually found the hot button, then it's time to present. You never present before you found that hot button, the real need, and of course, ask them those 5 magic questions that we talked about last week. And so it is actually the sponsor or the upline leader's job to do the presentation in the initial phase of your business. Now, when you start this business, we don't expect everyone to actually start off being able to do perfect presentations. Now, that's just, the expectation is much too high, especially for a new person who's probably only seen the presentation themselves maybe once or twice. And so your role, especially in the start of your business, is actually to get people there and place them in front of your upline mentor or your sponsor and let them do the work. And hopefully they know what they're doing. Usually that should be the case because they managed to sponsor you, correct? So remember, it is not actually your job to do the presentation. Now, that doesn't mean that you don't have to do anything during the presentation, but it's just that, remember, the bulk of the speaking needs to be done by the sponsor or the upline. And of course, present the opportunity after the hot button has been established. And of course, make sure to remind the presenter what your guest's hot button is. So I'm going to talk a little bit more about this right now. So in network marketing, we have something known as the ABC method. Now, this is something that the Chinese team work primarily off very, very well. And so this is a very unique, I guess, 2-on-1 situation where you have A, who's the advisor or the expert, or otherwise your upline. The B is the bridge, and that's you. And of course, the C is the customer or your guest. And of course, as you can tell here, the B is there to build the bridge between the A and the C. By edifying A, if you guys don't know what edifying means, edifying just means to tee up. It means to like talk up, say good things about the A. Say all the nice things about A that the C actually cares about. And of course, you have to be truthful in the regards. If A isn't a doctor, don't tell them they are. Or if A has no background in health and nutrition, don't say that they are some kind of nutrition expert, which they are not. You want to be absolutely truthful to see, because between yourself and your customer, you obviously have that rapport. And because of that rapport, you've got that trust. Now, especially your closest friends and family, they trust you, but they don't really respect you. That is why when you try to tell them something, they don't really listen to you. And all of a sudden they see it on the telly or they read it in a magazine. All of a sudden they're saying the same thing you said to them back to you. And you're like, Well, I just told you this last week. And you're like, and they say, well, you're not the expert. And so that's why we have this ABC thing. If you yourself warm up the prospect, try to find their hot button, and you are the expert yourself, unless you're really, really good at edifying yourself, there's a chance that, especially when they're a close friend or family member, they're not really going to listen to you. And so that's why we bring in the advisor or the expert as part of this ABC process. So when you edify the A, and because C trusts you, now they're going to respect A, and they're going to give A the best chance at explaining what this opportunity is all about, and really actually listen to the A. So I'm going to go into a little bit more about what is actually involved in each of person's, I guess, responsibilities. And remember, the most important person in this entire structure, of course, is the B, because you are that bridge. Without the B, you cannot have this whole presentation. Okay, so let's talk about a little bit about A's role. So what does the A do in all of this? Well, the A is the sponsor, the upline mentor, and usually they're the ones who should know everything about the actual health and freedom itself. So when it comes to health and freedom, 4 primary questions must be answered throughout the course of your presentation. All right. And the first one is, of course, why nutritional supplements? You need to explain a little bit about why do we use nutritional supplements? And I'm sure a lot of you guys know what those are, right? So, of course, the declining standards in food, the rise in, of course, degenerative disease, and of course, the science that's coming out and whatnot about the use of nutritional supplements and the prevention of disease, whatnot, and fit into a healthy, balanced lifestyle, etc., etc. So you guys know the reasons why nutritional supplements. So this is the first question that needs to be answered. Of course, the presentation or the health and freedom presentation itself in a 2-on-1, 1-on-1, or in front of a large crowd is going to be varied slightly from situation to situation. But in the case where you're doing an ABC for someone, just remember to keep things fluid, okay? So how you actually cover these questions and how you answer them can be very different. But make sure you actually do answer these 4 questions by the end of your interaction with the guest. So first, why nutritional supplements? Next, why the USANA nutritionals? Now they know why I should take a supplement or why I should take a nutritional. Why should I choose the USANA one? Why should I choose the USANA one over another one? Why should I choose the USANA one instead of Blackmore's? And so, of course, we know why USANA. We're pharmaceutical grade. We're ranked #1 in the comparative guide. We have Dr. Wentz. We have our own manufacturing facilities. We have our own in-house team of scientific experts, etc., etc. We've got an athlete's guarantee. The list goes on why USANA. So make sure you answer this question to them as well. Why nutrition supplements and why USANA? And then, of course, you move into the second part of the health and freedom side, which is the actual freedom part. And, of course, you talk about why network marketing. Why business for themselves? Why should they own their own business instead of work? Why should they choose this style of business? And of course, we know the facts, the money being made in this industry around the world, how it just makes sense. You're cutting out the middleman. You're offering some a wholesale price for a product they're going to actually use. You're going to be actually compensated for for doing this business, right? And on top of that, of course, you can earn a residual passive income as opposed to the linear income. Instead of trading 1 hour for a paycheck, what you can do is you can actually start building an asset in your part-time, and so that it will pay you over and over and over again. And of course, for those of you guys who have heard my health and freedom, know that I love talking about building that pipeline and having a pipeline versus just going down and carrying buckets of water. And so why network marketing? And of course, why USANA? Why this business over other one? And of course, you guys know why. The compensation plan is fair. We talk about the company's 23-year history, the fact that we have some of the best people working in this business, like taking care of our needs. I myself have never missed a paycheck. This company pays me every single week. And of course, the way we expand, the range of products, and last but not least, the team and the community. Talk a lot, of course, about your own respective teams. Edify your teams. Edify the group of people they're going to be joining. Edify the group of people they're going to be working with, and so that they understand, why this family is a lot different to a lot of the other families out there. So remember, you're answering these 4 questions. If you are the A, as part of the ABC, and I know there's a lot of A's here listening to my talk, you need to be answering these 4 questions. If you can't answer those 4 questions, you need to go back to study, and I'm sure most of you guys already can. Of course, you can always get better. So remember, those are the 4 questions you need to answer. And of course, the most important thing when you answer these 4 questions is, of course, you need to make a link between what USANA has to offer and the guest's hot button. You need to, after B, of course, will tell you what the hot button is, you need to help make that connection so the customer or the client or the guest who is sitting there understands that what you have offered him and what you have shown him is the answer to is to the problem, is the solution to what he's looking for, is the way he can actually get his hot button. All right, so that's the A's role. A needs to do all of that. So what else? The A also, remember, you need to keep the presentation fluid. Don't just read off a script. I know a lot of people learn the presentation itself from a script, or they listen to somebody else's script or whatnot, and so they like to do 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And I find that is probably one of the worst ways to do a presentation, because you're completely ignoring the other person who's actually sitting there. It's as if they don't exist. You're talking at them instead of talking to them. And I think that's an important point. You guys should write that down. Don't talk at someone, talk to them. And often I find a lot of people like to talk at people. And so ask a lot of questions. All right, you need to ask lots and lots of questions in order to understand, what this person's actually looking for. Maybe he's actually not that keen on this section of the presentation, so talk about it, touch it briefly, but move right along. Maybe he's more interested in this, and if he is more interested in this specific topic, then talk more about this specific topic. That might be like, Dr. Wentz himself, or that might be the actual manufacturing processes, or it might be the network or the industry, or whatever it may be. Ask a lot of questions. Just because you're doing presenting doesn't mean that they're not allowed to talk. It doesn't mean that you do all the talking and they just have to sit there to listen to you. No, ask them lots of questions, include them, and of course, get them involved. Make it very dynamic and make it very fluid and interactive. Do not take too long. Focus on the issue that is important to them. I remember when I first started, I thought that I had to talk about everything. And so I learned absolutely everything there was to know about the company. And I would sit someone down and do 2-3 hour presentations. And they'd be tired and I'd be tired and I'd be like, wait, I still haven't finished. I still have to talk about this. And so of course, you could tell that, those presentations weren't very successful and they didn't end up getting started with me and they didn't end up signing. And so I learned my lesson the hard way. Don't take too long. Just because you have a lot of knowledge and just because you have a lot of content to deliver, it doesn't mean you need to deliver all of it. Only focus on the issues that are really important to the guest and answer their questions versus just data dumping everything you know about USANA. I mean, after 10 years of doing this business myself, I know so much about USANA that, I can talk about it for years, but what's the point, right? And of course, remember, you are a problem solver. You are there to help them solve a problem. You're not there to just, dump data on top of them. And so remember, the focus, again, is always going to be on the guest, or the C in this ABC thing that we're talking about here right now. All right, so that's the role of the A. So let's move a little bit on about the B. So like I said, in the ABC, the most important person is the actual B, because B needs to build that bridge between the A and the customer itself. All right, so the B needs to invite properly. So remember, like I said, this entire training, the second module in this training, is predicated on the fact that B has done the job well. They've invited, like I talked about last week, they've built that rapport, they found out the need, they've pushed their buttons a little bit and disturbed them, and now they've actually offered the solution, which is come and talk to my A, come and talk to my upline or my sponsor or this expert who can actually deliver you a method or an opportunity which you can possibly solve your problems with. All right, edify A to C. So the edification process is very, very important. So edifying starts from the moment you do the invite, right? You need to talk a little bit about the A, a little bit about their credentials, why it is that this person needs to come and speak to your sponsor. Why is this person needs to come and talk to your upline and your leader in your business? Why is it that they need to listen to them? And so the edification process needs to happen. And of course, you also need to edify when the meeting starts. All right. So you really need to set the scene and establish that hot button. I'm going to give you a quick example of what I teach my people to do. Let's say that I talk to my friend Jim. And Jim is really interested in earning a part-time income because he wants to be able to eventually stop working, stay at home with his family, all right? And that's what's really important to him, his family. So I have edified to him my upline, let's say Josie. So I've talked a little bit about Josie to him. And now when the meeting starts and I arrived with Jim, I will bring Jim to meet Josie. So I'll be like, hi, Josie. Thank you so much for being here today. I know you're very busy, and I'm very grateful that you could spare this time. I want to introduce you to my friend Jim. Jim's a father, and he's working really hard right now. And so when I presented this this opportunity to him, I said that he can actually earn a little bit of extra money, and that's something he's looking for. He wants to earn a bit of extra part-time income so that he can spend more time with his family. And so Josie, please, if you could just show him a little bit of what we do and how he can actually earn that part-time income to spend that extra time with his family. Thank you so much, Josie. And then sit down after you've set that scene. So don't just the worst thing a B can do is, oh, hi, Jim, this is Josie. Josie, this is Jim. The person I was talking to you about, sit down, shut up, and just try to let Josie do all the work. All right. So you really need to set that scene. You really need to establish the hot button, and you really need to open the conversation. You've got to build that bridge, and you've got to constantly be building that bridge between A and C. If they have something in common, talk about that thing in common. You know, hey, Josie, I heard you really like shoes. Jim really likes shoes too, or whatever. You know, something like help them establish some common ground, really edify the person. Otherwise, the person doesn't know your mentor. They don't know your sponsor. They really aren't feeling all that close to them because there's no rapport. So you really need to help in building that rapport by setting the scene and establishing that hot button. Now, if there's any questions along the way that you guys want to know, of course, just put it in the side. Or if you can't hear me and want me to slow down, also let me know as well. I'll be keeping an eye on that. Of course, steer conversation only when needed. Sometimes you might feel like the conversation is being steered in the wrong direction. Maybe you might know some background information that you haven't had the chance to let your upline know. Maybe you haven't had the chance to let the A know that, you know, there's some points that they really need to avoid or some sensitive parts, in which case you need to help steer the conversation, but only when that's needed. So when they're babbling too much about a certain section and you know your friend has no, like, they don't really care about that part, then you can just poke in and say, hey, why don't you talk a little bit more about this? I think Jim's really interested, or my guest is really interested in this, and help steer that conversation back on track, especially when, you know, nobody's perfect. You know, A's are gonna, you know, especially if they're new as well themselves, they're not gonna give the perfect presentation. So you gotta help things along. So that's why I say the B's role is very, very important. Otherwise, if you are not needed and things are going great, you can see that your friend or your guest is really listening, then you just listen yourself, nod, and most importantly, take notes. Sit there, have your notebook out, nod, agree with everything that A is saying, and take notes and learn, because this is how you learn to become an A. If you are the B right now, one day you're going to need to be the A. And so how do you learn to present? By listening to the A and watch how your sponsor or how your leader is actually handling the situation. How do they ask questions? How do they answer those 4 questions I said before about why nutritional supplements, why USANA, why network marketing, and why USANA? You know, how did they answer these questions for your guest? How do they make the connection for the guest about their hot button and what, you know, USANA has to offer? So this is your time to be learning. If you feel like the conversation is obviously moving off track, steer it back on and then go back to the listening, the nodding, and the taking notes. All right. So remember, this is what Bs have to do. So now let's talk a little about actually how to present, not just what to present on. So the key difference between a good presentation and a bad presentation is how well you address your prospect's need. Now, I'm going to be focusing a lot about this. I keep talking about the needs of the prospect, the needs of the guest, because this is one of the key things, you know, because you can know everything about the products, you can know everything about the business, you can know everything about this industry, about our founder, about everything, and you can still give a bad presentation. All right. I think that's something that a lot of people don't understand. They think that if I know everything about the products and I know everything about the compensation plan, naturally I'm going to give a great presentation because I cover everything. But that's actually incorrect, because the key difference between a good one and a bad one is how well you addressed your guests' needs and what they were looking for. So remember, just knowing everything is not enough. You can know everything and still give a bad presentation. So keep that in mind. By placing the focus on their needs versus the focus on being your knowledge and expertise is what's going to set you apart from every other presentation that they've ever seen. Because I can guarantee you the majority of presentations they've seen, the speaker is so focused on what they know, how much of an expert they are, and delivering the content that they're such an expert on, that they forget that the other person even exists. So if you want to be different, focus on the person you're talking to rather than what you've got to actually present to them. Okay, guys? So remember, don't talk at people, talk to them. and be excited. Show them your actual passion. You can know a lot of stuff, but if you deliver in a very lackluster way without much excitement, without much passion, then they're not going to be very much moved, right? Convinced people are convincing. So be convinced yourself, be excited, light up their fire with your fire. Show them how passionate you are about what you do. Show them why you want to get started, why you did something like this, and let them understand that too. It's very infectious. Energy is infectious. I always give this training. I say everything is one thing and one thing is energy. And if you do any kind of science, you know that energy can actually not be destroyed and energy cannot be actually created. It's only transferred. Energy is transferred from one person to another. So if you have a lot of energy and excitement, it's going to transfer over to them. Remember that you're constantly at war with positive and negative energy. If their negative energy is stronger than your positive energy, then you're going to lose and the negativity is going to win. But if your excitement and your passion and your positivity is stronger than their negativity, no matter how negative they were in the first place, you're going to win them over and you're going to win. Remember, the stronger energy always wins. All right, guys? All right. And of course, remember, last but not least, ask a lot of questions. Ask questions like things like, do you see how these products can help you if you're talking about the products? Do you see how having our own facilities guarantees that our products are of the highest quality? Do you see how having Dr. Wentz as our founder, that this business is different like other ones? Do you see how his vision really impacts the way we do business? Do you see how this compensation plan is fairer than other ones? Etc., etc., etc. Ask a lot of these questions. Get them nodding. Get them agreeing with you. Ask them things about what you've just talked about. If you explain a little bit about this, do you see how this industry can benefit you? Do you see how if you did this, that you could actually get that extra income you're looking for or that extra time you're looking for? You like to travel? Do you see how if you took part, you could actually win this traveling for free, etc., etc., etc. As you're talking about whatever you're talking about, ask them questions. Get the guest agreeing with you. All right. Now, so closing. You've done the whole presentation, now it gets to the end. And so most people know that, by the time you get to the end, now's the time you actually have to close, correct? Now you actually have to, I guess, kick the goal. You have to put the ball between the two posts, kick the goal, and this whole thing now. And of course, everyone knows in sales training, they always say ABC, always be closing. But that's actually a lot more than just that. So what I'm actually talking about is this. Closing actually doesn't begin once the presentation ends. Most people think that closing only begins once you've presented all the information and now you can try to close. That's actually incorrect. Closing begins the moment the presentation actually starts. A lot of people are asking me, what do you mean by that? I'm actually presenting. I'm not actually closing it. Closing is when I ask them to sign or I get them to actually sign the paper and get started with us. Well, no, actually closing begins the moment you actually start your presentation, because what you should be doing along the way are what I call test closes, little test closes along the way to see how far along in that process they are. Do you remember last week when I did the training, I said every single person, put them on this scale from 0 to 10. 0 being they are not ready to get started and 10 being they're ready to start right now. And so always be testing how far along they are. You'll find that as you are presenting, you're actually pushing them along the scale from 0 towards the 10. So ask questions like, do you think that these products could benefit you and your family? Do you see how these products can actually help you with your health? Do you see yourself doing something like this? Do you think that this is a way for you to actually get hot button, etc., etc., etc.? Do you see how you need to do this or do that, etc.? So ask little test closes along the way. All right. And of course, here's the thing. If they are ready, they are ready. So if you ask them something like, so are you ready to get started? If I ask them something like, do you see yourself doing something like this? They say, yeah, I do actually. And I said, well, are you ready to get started? And they say, yes. Then right there, even if I'm only 50% of the way through the presentation, I pull out the form. All right, great. Well, if you're ready to get started, just fill this out and we'll get you on your way and we'll take you through the training, etc., etc., etc. If they are ready, they are ready. Just because you have a ton more information to tell them, it doesn't even matter, because when they are ready, they're ready. I've seen so many presentations where somebody's actually sold USANA to the guest. They've actually sold it. It was great. They did a great job selling it. But then one thing didn't happen. They didn't stop talking. They kept talking. And they ended up buying USANA back. So they sold it to them and then they bought it back. And so what's ended up happening? You end up doing a 1-2 hour presentation. You feel really, really good about this presentation. And they leave and they didn't sign up, but you still feel really, really good because you did all that talking. All right. So when they are ready, just know that they are ready. Don't buy it back. So when you ask that question, are you ready to get started? And they say yes, stop. Get them started. They are ready. And of course, don't be afraid to ask the big questions. So do you see yourself doing something like this? Do you want to get started right now? What's stopping you from getting started right now? Don't be afraid to actually kick the goal and asking, them to actually get started. Remember that it's not the A's job also to actually kick that goal. It's actually the A's job to set up that goal. But the B's, you need to actually kick that goal. Now, what do I mean by actually kicking that goal? So if you are the B and you have rapport with this person, you have trust, when it comes time to actually signing the paper, give them that little kick that they need. Hey man, come on. I know this is exactly what you're looking for. You didn't come here today for nothing, right? You came all this way to look for something. If you see that this is the way to do it, let's do this together. I just got started myself and A's a great mentor. We can learn so much together. Let's do this together. I'll be with you every step of the way, etc., etc. Give them that little push they need at the end over that line. Help them over the line. The A can only get you to the goal line, but the B's, remember, you got to kick that goal because you've got that personal relationship with the guest or the customer or your friend and help them over that line. All right. So no questions about that. If you have any questions about that, of course, keep going and then, put it in the side. And I'm going to move on to the second section of this. And this section is actually going to take a little bit longer because handling objections are a little bit of a longer thing. So, of course, no matter how good the presentation may be, you might have done everything right and it can still get to the end and they're still going to have questions, true? Right? And so you'll find that if you do the prospecting and the inviting properly and you do the presenting properly and you answer those 4 questions and you've made the connection with their hot button, by the time it comes to close, a lot of times the objections have already been pre-handled because you've already done all of that in the work you did beforehand, and you'll find that it becomes very, very smooth. That's why last week I said if you spend 90% of your time on this half, which was the left half of the quadrant, you're going to find that by the time it gets to the right half of the quadrant, you don't have much work to do. And kicking that goal becomes so easy because you've done all that work previously. And so there are also going to be times when you didn't do the right half of the quadrant that well. And so when it comes time to close, there's a lot of questions or a lot of objections. And of course, many people face this. Now, I always say the best way to handle an objection is not to create one. All right. And so we're going to talk a little bit about this. So types of objections, understanding what objections really are, the objection handling process itself. And I'm going to go through a few common objections and some of the things I say to people when they say the things to me. And if you guys have other objections that you want me to help cover, then of course, put it in the side now. So by the time we get to that part, I'll have a list of things that I can help you guys answer. Okay, cool. All right, so let's move right along. So the types of objections. Now, there's actually what I call a lot of smoke screens. Now, these aren't real objections. They're smoke screens. They're things people throw up in your way so that they can avoid making a decision. They can avoid talking about the real issue. They always throw up things your way and they give you a lot of BS, right? And so what are these things? There's something known as the brush off. So what's the brush off? It's when it comes down to it, they say, well, this is great. I really like what you guys show me. This looks fantastic. I just need more information. So why don't you just send me some more videos or send me some more information or a brochure in my email, etc., and I'll have a look at it. And they want to get the heck out of there. All right, that's the brush off. All right, so that's what it looks like. If you get that, know that you're being brushed off. Now, of course, there's also the procrastination. You know what? I really like this, but now's just not a really good time. Why don't you call me again in about 3 to 4 months? They really want to procrastinate. Or, I don't think I can make this decision right now. I need to go home. I need to talk to my wife. We make all decisions together, etc., etc., etc. They're going to procrastinate. They're going to not want to make that decision right now. And what else? They're going to nitpick. You're going to find people are going to nitpick. You say these products are number one, but, who's really actually saying these products are number one? You say your products are all natural. Where do you source your ingredients from? Is it real fish they make the fish oil out of from? And the vitamin C, where do they get their oranges? What's the soil? What kind of soil do they use for the oranges they use for the vitamin C for? Did they pick their own tree? What kind of pesticides is used? What's the name of the harvesting vehicle they used to harvest that? What's the name of the boat that the fish came in on? Etc. They're going to nitpick every last stupid detail. And there's going to be people like that. I've actually had people ask me questions similar to those. And, those are just smoke screens. And of course, then there's going to be actual real objections. They really like what they see. They're not just trying to push you away. They're not really trying to brush you off. They actually have questions that they want answered. And so these will come in the form of a lack of understanding, whether it be in the business structure, whether it be in the products themselves. So they don't know why I should do this, or they don't know why I should use nutritionals, etc. Maybe you didn't go over that so well in your presentation. And so that can be one of the key objections, the lack of understanding, in which case it's a genuine objection and they just really want to know. And so you can help answer these questions. And then, of course, there's also a real lack of time and money. Some people just really don't see the value in what you've presented them. And so there is a real lack of time and money that they feel is limiting them. And if you help them, of course, overcome that, then they will actually get started. But in their present mind, when they don't see the value, or in their own situation, the way they analyze their own life, they really don't see a way they can make this work with the time or the lack of money that they have presently in their lives. And of course, that's the last one, which is they lack confidence and skills. They really want to do this. They're just afraid that they're going to fail. Fear of failure is a great thing. It's a huge thing. A lot of people are afraid to get started because they fear that they're going to fail. Nobody likes failing. They think that it's not okay to fail. From a young age, since we go to primary school, we're taught that failing is bad, And so more often than not now, people are not taught about failing. In school now, everybody gets something called a participation prize. It used to be winner win, and then there's losers lose. And then, people understand what loss is, and they grow up and they accept that loss is a part of life. But now everybody gets participation. And so they're really, really afraid to lose because they don't want that to happen. They've never lost before. They don't want to fail. They've never failed before. And so they don't want to lose. They don't want to fail. And so they lack the confidence to succeed, and they lack the skills to succeed. And so if you can help them overcome that and teach them and give them the confidence. And so this is where the confidence part, the B, really plays a huge role. Really believe in someone. We say that in this business, we believe in you before you even believe in yourself. And so that's really important. When someone lacks confidence, you need to give them the confidence. And of course, when they lack the skill, we're going to teach them the skills. So I'm going to talk a little bit about why smoke screens occur and what to have to do when they have real objections. So why does the smoke screen occur? Well, let's keep in mind a few things. First and foremost, it's called the looking zone. So every single person lives in 3 to 6 month cycles. And so if you catch them whilst they're in this looking zone, then everything is just right. They just want to get started. But if you catch them out of that looking zone, just remember, no means not now. You might realize that, they're trying to push me off. They're trying to brush me off. They're throwing up a whole bunch of smoke screens. They're just not in that looking zone. They really don't want something like this yet. They know they want it, but just they don't know it yet. So remember, no just means not now, sometimes. I say sometimes because sometimes no just really means no. Maybe they really have it in for what we got to do. Maybe they had a really bad experience to the point where they are so sick of this, somebody really did a bad job on them, in which case, don't waste your time. No really means no, and leave this person alone. But remember, for most people, that's not going to be the case. So no just means not now. Ask again in 3 to 6 months, and maybe they are in that looking zone. And so follow-up is very, very important. We say follow-up, fortune is in the follow-up. And we're going to talk about follow-up a little bit next week. And so keep in mind, that's going to be on next week. But for now, remember, if they are not in the looking zone, you're going to get a whole bunch of smoke screens. They're not real objections. They're just things they're trying to throw in your way so that they don't have to make a decision, because they don't really want to do this. They're just not in that zone. But remember, no just means not now. Let them go and check back with them, all right? And keep following up. And remember, you can never say the wrong thing to the right person. No matter what you say, if they are the wrong person, you can never say the right thing either. So remember, that coin works both ways, okay, guys? So you can never say the wrong thing to the right person, and you can never say the right thing to the wrong person. So if they are the wrong person, then they are the wrong person. Let it go. Remember last week, we talked a lot about sorting. We talked about your prospect or your guest will let you know what they are. They're going to be either a product user, or maybe they're going to be a team member, or they're going to be a leader in your business, or maybe they want nothing at all, and that is okay. All right. So remember, you can't say the wrong thing to the right person. If you're finding the process is very, very difficult, it's because they're just the wrong person. Leave it. Move on. There's plenty of other people in the world. A fresh batch of 18-year-olds turn 18 every single day. You will never run out of people for this business. You will never run out of people to talk to. The one thing this world has too many of is people. That's one thing that's never going around. There's just so many people out there. So don't worry so much. If they're the wrong person, move on. And of course, keep in mind, objections are actually a good thing. I'm talking about genuine objections. When they have a genuine objection, they are a really good thing because it means they're interested. They just really want more information. And if you help give them that information, then they can make a decision for themselves, which works out best for the both of you. All right. And do not take it personally. When they reject USANA, they're not rejecting you. They're just rejecting USANA. You have an amazing gift that you're offering them, a chance for them to better their health, better their lives, get financial freedom, etc., etc. They're not rejecting you. They're rejecting what you've got to offer them. I mean, I always use the analogy of a waiter. Imagine you're a waiter in a coffee shop and your job is to go around and filling up people's coffees, right? A lot of people take objections really personally. And when someone has a bunch of objections and don't want to get started, they cry, they get mad or they try to quit themselves. They're like, I talked to 3 people. They all said, no, I'm out. I can't do this. And so remember, don't take it personally. They're not rejecting you. People hate being rejected. I understand that. But if you don't take it personally, it's not going to matter too much. All right. So back to the analogy of the waiter. Your job is to go around and filling up coffees for everyone. So you go to the first person. Hi, sir. Would you like some more coffee? They say yes. So you fill up their cup. You feel great. Next person, you say, hi, sir. Would you like some coffee? They say no. You're like, oh, well, that's not nice. I wanted to give you coffee, but you don't want it. Fine. Next person, do you want coffee? They say no. You're like, all right, you know what? I've had enough of this. Nobody wants coffee. You run into the back of the kitchen. You smash the pot on the ground and you go, I quit. This sucks. Nobody wants coffee. And so why would you take it so personally? They're not rejecting you. They're just rejecting coffee. Maybe they don't like coffee. Maybe they just drink tea. Never take things personally. All right, guys? Next, do not interrupt them. When they are giving their objections, even if though you might know the answer, really, really listen. Because when they come up with an objection to you, it might not be the actual objection. This is when you really need to listen. Because this is how you can figure out, is this person giving me a smoke screen or is this person giving me a real objection? But if you interrupt them, if they start saying something like, I'm already healthy. I don't need this stuff. And all of a sudden you jump right in and you start telling them, yeah, but this, and you really want to tell them why they are wrong. Do you remember last week I talked about conversation? Most people don't talk and listen. It's not one person talking, one person listening. It's one person talking and the other person waiting for their turn to speak. Don't be that guy that's just waiting for their turn to speak, okay? So do not interrupt them. Really, really listen to what they've got to say to you. Really, really listen to the objection so you know what they're trying to tell you. All right. And so you can find out if the smoke screen is a real one and you can actually handle it. And of course, it's okay to not know the answer. I've had so many new people make stuff up just because they were too scared to admit that I don't know the answer. And so they'll ask, so are these products all natural? Like, are these products vegan friendly? Go, oh yeah, all USANA's products are vegan friendly. Yeah, you can take this stuff. Or they say, oh, is this stuff FDA approved? They go, oh yeah, this is FDA approved. And our products are not FDA approved, by the way. Our facilities are, but the products aren't. FDA doesn't approve supplements to the degree that we think they do. Anyway, that's a whole different issue. But the point is, do not make up answers to questions. Do not make up solutions to objections. If you don't know something and they've asked you a question you don't know, just say, you know what, that's a really great question. Let me ask somebody for you and get back to you. Or if you have someone there with you, you know what, that's a really great question. Let me go get my upline and he can answer that for you. Let me go get Josie for you and she can answer that for you. Let me get my sponsor. He knows more about this than me. It's okay to not know the answer. All right, guys, don't make stuff up. And of course, help them make the best decision for them. Remember, you're trying to help someone better their lives. You're trying to help someone solve their problem, right? Remember, you are in the place of a problem solver. So make the best decision for them. And sometimes the best decision for them might not be the best for you. So you might really need this last person for your platinum run, but it's just not right for them. So don't try to force them into a situation where it's win-lose in the sense that you win, but they lose because they weren't really looking for this, but you pressure them, you guilt them, or you force them into making a decision, and then in the end, they're going to end up quitting anyways. Yes, you might get your platinum or whatnot, but then you end up hurting someone, or you end up, killing this person who could have potentially been a great leader one day if you had given them the time to develop. So remember, help them make the best decision for them. And the only way you're going to find out what's the best decision for them is to place their focus first, what they're looking for first. And sometimes remember, you can't say the right thing to the wrong person. You can't say the wrong thing to the right person. So just keep all these things in mind. I'm going to touch on this again because these things are very, very important. All right, guys. So let's move a little bit on from this point. So now I want you guys to really understand objections. What are these objections? We know the smoke screen, they are real questions. So people raise objections for actually 3 main reasons. And you're going to find out find out that no matter what objections they raise, they all boils down to these three things. Is this legit? First and foremost, is this for real? Is this company legit? Are they a scam? Are they going to disappear overnight? Etc. 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 Right? Is this even real? Is this for real? Is this opportunity presenting me? Is this legit? Can I do this? All right, so this is legit. I can actually make some money from this. I can actually get healthy from this, but can I actually do this? Can I actually be successful? I don't think I have the skills. I don't think I have the experience, or I don't think I'm very good at this, etc., etc., etc. So they want to know, can I do this? Is this legit? Can I do this? And last but not least, will you help me? Nobody wants to do this alone. So in our Health and Freedoms, we always say you're in business for yourself, but you're not by yourself, because you have an amazing team of people and mentors and coaches and clients who are behind you helping you do this. So remember, the main three concerns people are going to have is this legit? Can I do this? And will you help me? And so if you can handle these three things during the course of your presentation or in this objection handling process, you're going to find that the majority of people actually do get started. Sorry. Let me keep my throat for a second. Sorry. So yes, so those are the three main things. Keep that in mind, that when somebody asks objections, this is what they're actually asking. Is this legit? Can I do this? And will you help me? So make sure you're answering those. And the best way to find out which one of these they have issues with, or maybe all of them they have issues with, is to use questions to your advantage. Just because they're asking you a question doesn't mean you just have to answer their question. You can still ask them a question as well. Okay, guys? All right, fantastic. So before we start and get into the actual process of handling objections, I want you guys to remember to use positive body language and choice of language. Positive body language is not to cross your arms, cross your legs, look at them really mean, put on this scowl like, I can't believe you're asking me questions like that. Didn't you just listen to that presentation? What do you mean you're healthy? Didn't you just listen to that guy talk about health? How, you're going to die from heart attack and cancer? etc., etc. That's really negative body language. All right. And of course, your attitude is very, very important. And choice of language, use positive terms, use open-ended things. When someone asks you a question, it's like, do not refute them. I hate people who say, no, you're wrong, or, no, that's not the case. No, that's not it. It's this. Avoid using the word no. Just like, great, that's a really great question. Fantastic. Awesome. Yes. Great, etc. Use positive language and positive body language. All right, guys? So before you start, remember, make sure you're doing these things. Empathy. Remember I said last week, nobody cares how much you know until they know how much you care. So remember when you were sitting there seeing this presentation for the first time, seeing this opportunity, these products and this business for the first time, and you looked at it and you were skeptical too, were you not? Nobody was 100% sure of this. Some people are, most people are not. They're skeptical, they're worried, they're unsure, they're not sure if, they've just got tricked into coming to some weird thing or whatever it may be. So use empathy. Know that they're in the same position as you when you first got started. Keep that in mind when you talk to them and help them answer their questions. And remember, urgency, but never desperation. You can create urgency, but never create desperation. It might be urgent. Maybe it's like, hey, I'm really excited. Let's really get you started. I want to help you start making your first check straight away. I really want to help you work towards that financial freedom, that time freedom. Let's do this now. So if you do this now, we can get your training done really quickly, but not desperation. Oh, please, man, look, I just need one more. I need 4 for this platinum thing. And you're my last one. Like, my time runs out. Don't do that. I know some people actually do get pretty damn desperate, and so or the ones who actually ask other people to give them people. Oh, who does that? Why would you ask someone else to sign up someone for you? This makes no sense. Is this your business or somebody else's business? So never be desperate. Don't beg other people to give you people. Don't beg other people to give you customers. Don't beg other people to buy things. None of that. All right. Urgency, but not desperation. Take ownership and take charge of your own business. Be excited. This could be the start of an amazing journey for the both of you. All right. This could be the beginning of something really, really beautiful. You never know who's going to go diamond in the next 3 to 5 years, or in the next year, even if you're in the Philippines, right? How fast they rank advance. You got to be excited. You never know who's actually going to drastically change their life. Maybe that guy who's always had weight issues gets started with you, started within 6 months. They're a whole new person and their life completely turns around. We never know what this could be. And it could be the amazing start of something for the both of you, because you sponsored them. And so be genuinely excited for them to get actually started with you and with us here in USANA. All right, guys? All right. And of course, you can never win an argument. I put never there in really big letters because this is very, very important. You can never win an argument. If you are arguing with someone about a topic or another, you might be arguing about why this industry is so great. You might be arguing about why you started such a great company. You might be arguing about why they're stupid for not taking supplements. I don't know. Whatever you argue, even if you manage to win, you lose because you can never win an argument. That's why you should try to avoid arguing as much as possible. And it's something that I need to learn myself sometimes because, I'm pretty strong-willed myself and I end up, butting heads with a lot of people. And sometimes, yeah, you should learn not to actually have an argument because you can never actually win those. Even if you win, you still lose. So avoid arguing with people. All right, so let's talk about the actual process itself. So the Bs need to start the closing process. Let your guests know how much you'd love for them to get started with you, and you can help them get their hot button. Then to start this whole process, all right? It's not the A's job to come swooping in and ask for these things. If you brought your guest here, turn to your guest and ask them a question. Hey, do you see how you can, if you get started, you can get this and this? Do you see how the products can help you with your health? Whatever it was, their hot button, bring up that hot button again at the very end and get this whole process rolling. Do you see yourself doing something like this, like I was saying before? Do you want to get started right now, etc., etc., etc.? Start the ball rolling, all right? And of course, these are great questions to ask. Do you see yourself doing something like this? Are you ready to get started? On a scale of 1 to 10, how close are you? 1 being you don't want to start at all, and 10 being you're ready to get started right now, etc. Ask them, where are they? Where are they in this entire process? All right? And what can I help you with to get you to a 10? So if they say, you know what, I'm a bit of a 7 right now, I just need to know a little bit more about the products. Great. So if I can help you, will you be a 10? Etc. etc. Ask them these questions. And of course, let's move on. So those are questions to ask in the close process. So what I like to do is write down every single objection. So I ask them, so on a scale of 1 to 10, what are you? And they might say, I'm a 7. All right, so what can I help you with to get you to a 10? They say, well, maybe you could tell me a bit more about the products. So I write that down. Great, products. I'm like, fantastic. So that's a great question. Everyone wants to know more about the product. Is there anything else stopping you? Is there anything else that you'd like to know? And I write it all down. And as I'm asking them for all their objections, I'm writing it down on this list. I don't interrupt them. I let them say everything they want to say about this. They might say something like, yeah, I've heard about something similar to this before. My friend got started. He did it for a while. It didn't work. I'm just thinking, is this one of those things? So I'm writing down, great, fantastic. Anything else? Anything else? Once I get them to write down once I write down everything that they've got to object to this, I ask them, so if I help you answer every single one of these questions, will you start? I want to get that out of the way straight away. I say, if I answer all these questions for you, now remember, should be either the A or the B, whoever is more adept at handling objections, of course. If I help answer all these questions, will you get started? If they say no, I'm not even going to bother answering these questions. I'm going to ask you, so what's really stopping you? A lot of people don't do this. They just think, oh, one objection, let me handle it. Oh, you want to know more about it? Let me handle it. At the end, they still don't get started. And they wonder, why? Because you didn't ask them, if I answer these questions, are you going to get started? Right? And so this is how you find out. Are they serious? Do they really want to do this? Or are they just trying to ask you questions because they feel it's polite to ask some questions, right? So if they say no, ask them, then what's really stopping you? So what do you really need to know to help yourself get started? And this is when you know if they're the right person, they're the wrong person, if they're in the looking zone or not, etc., etc., etc. Right, guys? And if it's a yes, if they say yes, if you handle all these questions, I will get started. Then I will answer every single one of these things. If they say no, and they say, look, it's just not the right time for me, whatever it may be, then I say, okay, that's no worries. Thank you for coming here today. I'm glad. And hopefully, you keep this in mind when you are ready. Please let your B know, whoever it is, when you are ready. Great. And I'm not even going to bother answer these questions because what's the point? They're not ready to get started, right? And so this is what you really want to do. Be constantly asking questions. You notice that even during my objection handling process, I'm still asking questions. I love that book. Questions are the answers, and because it's actually true. Questions are the answers. And at the end again, after you've asked all these questions and you've handled every single objection, you've answered all their questions, ask them again. So, are you ready to get started now? Or straight away, pull out the form. Great, I've answered these questions. Let's get you started. Why don't you start signing by here, etc. I need your name, I need your address, I need your phone number, etc., etc., etc. So, common objections. There's a lot of common objections out there. I hope there's no questions. So if there are questions, remember to put them on the side and JC will let me know. How am I doing for time? I'm doing okay for time. So common objections. So here are a few common objections we hear a lot of. And I'm just going to go through 4 of them because there's not enough time to handle every single one that there is out there because I know there is a lot. So I'm going to talk in depth about these 4 that I hear the most myself. I'm already healthy. I don't need nutritionals. Why do I need to take pills? I'm not a sick person. That's a very common one, right? Is this one of those things or whatever it may be? Is this one of those scams, one of these, etc., etc.? People ask that question too, right? What else? I have no money. I have no time. And I can't sell. So those are the 5, or I said 4. Well, those are the 5 most common objections that we get in our line of work. True, guys? If there's any other ones, of course, like I said, put on the side. If we have time, we'll definitely help you answer those. But of course, before you answer any of these things, I want you to keep all this in mind. Again, if they're not in the looking zone, they're not in the looking zone. If they are the wrong person, they're the wrong person. Anything they ask is a good thing as long as it's a real objection. Do not take it personally yourself and help them make the best decision for them. All right? And of course, when they are talking, let them talk and really listen to what they have to tell you. All right. So let's start with the first most common one, which is I'm already healthy. So what do you say to that? Well, this is an objection that arises when there is a lack of understanding in nutrition and nutritionals itself. Maybe they don't really understand why they should be taking it. Of course, you guys know why, right? So you can say, fantastic, these products are designed to keep healthy people healthy instead of sick people and make sick people healthy, etc. A lot of people think that, because you're taking it in a pill form, the only reason you're taking pills is because you are sick. And there's a common misunderstanding. And so make them understand, fantastic, these products are actually designed to keep healthy people healthy. Explain why nutritionals. Again, explain to them about degenerative disease prevention, how long-term use of nutritionals actually is our only way to prevent disease. Right? We want to talk about prevention, not cure. Regular nutrition versus optimal nutrition. There's regular nutrition, the RDIs, which are the bare minimums, and then there's optimal nutrition, which every single person needs in order to live a long and healthy life, right? And of course, the only real health insurance that we have against these degenerative diseases is nutritional supplements. That's the only real health insurance. Added to that, of course, a good diet, exercising regularly, sleeping well, mental health, etc. But the only real health insurance we have is actually using nutritionals. All right, guys? So let's move on. There's also, is this one of those things? And we know what we're talking about, right? Often when people ask this, they don't even know what they're talking about. Todd Falcone says, no, of course not. Is that what you're looking for? And of course, other people have great ways of saying these things. Other people say, of course not. Those things are illegal. My personal favorite is someone asks me, is this a pyramid thing? I say, no, pyramids are absolutely illegal. Why would you think this is that, etc., etc. And so, of course, what do you mean by that? Always confirm with them what they mean by that. If they say this is one of those things, what do you mean? What thing? Find out from them. All right. Of course, if they say, is this network marketing? Be positive. Say, of course, this network marketing. If it wasn't, I wouldn't touch it. Kind of like what Tal Falcone says, right? Of course, this network marketing. I absolutely love it. This is the only way to make real money here, right? Of course, is this a scam? You can't make money from this. Only people at the top make money, etc., etc., etc. All these different reasons that they're raising. So is this a scam? Let me talk a little bit about this. So what is a scam? A scam is when you try to hide information from someone to trick them into making a decision which will actually not benefit them and in fact harm them because of the lack of information. That's an actual scam. Or someone says, you can't make money from this. Well, actually, you can make a lot of money from this. Worldwide, how many sales are we doing now? This industry as a whole does what, $167 billion a year. $167 billion a year in sales. Now, companies on average pay back about 40% to people like you and I. So what's 40% of $160 billion? Well, that's real money being made by real people. We're just not making it, right? And so that's a really big pie. So you can actually make money from this. So only people at the top make the money. Well, that's actually not true. And you can show them by actually showing them the compensation plan, how people, no matter how late you enter into this, you can actually make money from this. Cool. Share your own thoughts and experiences. Know that you yourself were skeptical in the first place. I know I myself was the biggest skeptic. I fought against this for a very long time because I thought this is not real. You can't do something like this. When my mom got started, I was absolutely against it. I did not think that this was something that she should be doing. I told her to go to TAFE, learn some English, and get a real job. And so I myself remember what it was like to think that way. Obviously, now my thinking has come about 180 degrees, and I face the complete opposite way. And I'm one of the biggest champions for this network. But remember, share your own thoughts and your own journey, coming from someone who was skeptical and unsure to being certain and sure now. And of course, use facts to your advantage. And last but not least, these are the two biggest questions. I always tell them the best way to differentiate between a legitimate business and what you call one of these things is to ask yourself these two questions. First, is the money I make coming from the sale of a product or service? If the money that I'm going to be making from this opportunity is coming from the sale of a product or service, then absolutely, this is legit because you're actually exchanging products and money, which is real business. But if it's not, and the money you make is coming from the recruitment of a person, then don't do it. And last but not least, the second question, one of the most important ones, do I stand to make a substantial financial loss by getting involved? Are you paying a large amount of money for nothing? If you're paying a large amount of money for actually receiving nothing in return, or what amount of money you're paying for the products you receive is not equal, then you're actually standing to make a substantial financial loss. Now, of course, we know when you join Usana, you purchase products for your own personal consumption. So do you make a loss by purchasing products? Never. I've never had someone go to Woolies, buy a whole bunch of groceries, walk out and say, man, I just got robbed. I lost $300. But no, you've got a cart full of shopping goods, right? And so if you actually get started and purchase Usana products, you actually have products. And of course, with Usana, we know there's a 30-day, 100% money back guarantee on every single one of our products and 90% within the first year. So no, both of these questions pass. And therefore, what we do is definitely 100% legitimate. So of course, you can use these questions to share with people as well. What about I have no money? What if when someone says, I have no money? Well, lack of money is an objection only when they don't see the value. They don't see how this can actually make them more money than the money they invest, or they don't see how this is real. Now, if you had, let's say, a favorite car, some people want Ferrari, some people want Porsches, and we know we can't afford it, right? And we see the value in the car, we just can't afford it. True? So when they say, I have no money to buy, let's say, a Ferrari, and that's your dream car, then that's a real objection. They really don't have the money, right? And so if they see the value in what you have to offer, then money will no longer be an object. They'll see that this is something I really, really want, right? So let's say that same Ferrari was the same cost to start a Usana business. Do you think they'll jump at the chance to buy it? Hell yeah, nothing will get in their way. They will borrow from their relatives just to buy that car in order to get it at such a bargain, true? Because they see the value in the product that is being actually purchased here. So help them understand the value. So when they say, I have no money, I really like this, I want to get started, I just don't have the money right now. So I ask them, if money wasn't an issue, would you actually start? Find out if this is the real concern. If they say, yes, of course, if I had the money, I get started with you right now. I'm saying, well, then fantastic. What if I can show you a way to get the money? Would you get started then? And if they say yes, then I show them. But if they say, no, even if I had the money, I actually wouldn't get started. Then ask them, well, what's really stopping you? Do you remember that question? So what's really stopping you? Ask them that. So now they say, yes, if I had the money wasn't an issue, I would start. And if you can show me, I would start. So this is what I usually show people. I say that, that's fantastic. How about if I can show you where you can do this? Well, first and foremost is what you call your own money. There's 3 ways you can get the money from this. You say you don't have your own money. So that's out of the question. Next, what if I could show you a way that you could afford this business for less than $20 a month? Would you be able to afford that? Most people say, yes, of course, I can afford $20 a month. And they say, well, how am I supposed to get started for $20 a month? This business costs up to about, what's it, about $900, $1,000 to actually get started. Then you can say, well, it actually doesn't cost you that much. It only costs you $20 a month. And so everyone here is asking me, well, how does getting started Usana cost me $20 a month? Very, very simple. The concept is actually called OPM. OPM stands for other people's money. By other people, I don't mean your friends and family here. I don't mean to go borrow. What I mean in OPM is actually banks and financial institutions. They want to give you money. Banks want to give you credit cards. Financial institutes want to give you credit cards because they want you to go into debt. True. And now there's the difference between good debt and bad debt. If you get a credit card and you go have a shopping spree, that is really bad debt because you're never going to see that money again. But if you get a credit card and you use it to get started in Usana, that's good debt because you're investing in an asset that's going to pay you over time. And so how does this come down to the $20 a month? Well, a credit card charges about 20% interest per annum. So if you take the initial starting cost, which is about $1,000, charge 20% interest, which is $200. Now, over the course of a first year, if you just pay back about $20 a month, which is the actual interest that they're going to charge you, then you're actually getting this business for about $20 a month. Then it's just a matter of backing yourself to make at least $1,000 in your first year to not just pay back this initial cost, but also, of course, everything else on top of that. So if you can show them this, OPM. My own preferred method is obviously going to be OPM, other people's money. Get that credit card, but only use it for this and get into good debt. Don't go buying other things with it. Last but not least, the third way is to get creative. So what I mean by getting creative? Getting creative means that you can borrow. Now, I had a lady who actually really wanted to get started, but she really couldn't. She actually didn't have that money, and she didn't want to borrow from her husband because she was scared of her husband. So she went to all her friends and told them, hey, I want to start this thing. Can I borrow like $20 from you? So she went to like 20, 30, 40 different friends and borrowed $20 here, $30 there, $50 here. Some gave her a few hundred, etc., etc. And altogether, she had enough money to get started. And then she worked really hard. And in that first month, she made back enough money to pay off each person and also her next month's auto order. And so that's actually getting creative. And so there's lots of ways you can get creative. Some people do pre-selling. I know in the Philippines, they do a lot of pre-selling where they actually get a brochure and sell the products needed in order to get started before they even get started in the first place. And so you can actually get creative and you teach them, give them ideas about how they themselves can actually get creative. And so say, ask them this at the end. So do you see how if you did this, you could get started right now? And they say, yes. Well, are you ready to get started right now? And they say, yes. Well, then great. So let them sign the form and let them sort out that in their own time and whatnot that may be. All right. So that's the money objection. So what about I have no time? So once again, if they don't have time, they actually just don't see the value as well. They don't see that it's worth their time. And so this might be an actual genuine concern. Some people might just be really, really busy. They might work 90-hour weeks, but you got to keep in mind, people who have no money and people who have no time need the most money and need the most time because they're the people who are hurting the most. And so you needing to show them how, this is real value and an investment in something like this is going to be better than anything else they're doing right now. So I like to ask this question when they say they have no time. How much time do you think you need in order to make this work? And they're going to give you some idea, like, maybe 20, 30 hours a week. So I ask them, well, how much time do you actually have to spare? And they will say at least a few hours a week. No one ever says I have 0 hours a week to spare. That's actually not true. If they say that, you can actually draw out. Do you guys know how many hours are in a week? There's 168 hours in a week. Draw it out for them. Take away all the time that they need for other things like work, like transportation, a family, church, other things, commitments, etc., etc. You'll find out that most people sleep, of course. They'll have at least 20, 30 hours spare every single week that they're just spending on nothing or just watching TV or watching movies, etc., whatever it may be. So you find that, how much time do you have to spare? And then ask, if you spent that time, if you did use that time, what would you want to make from this to make it worthwhile to you? Ask them that question. If you did put that time that you did have spare into this, how much would you want to make from this for you to actually want to invest this time? All right, what would make it worthwhile to you? Ask them that question. Then, of course, if I can show you how you can do that in the time that you do have, would you get started? If they say yes, start them. If they say no, ask them again. What's that question? What is really stopping you? All right. So I like to handle time questions that way. Remember, these are for genuine objections, not smoke screens. All right, guys. Fantastic. Let's keep going. So what about I can't sell? A lot of people say this, right? Well, I like this, but I'm just not really good. I'm a really good people person. I don't have many friends. I can't sell. I don't know what I'm doing, etc., etc. Well, this is an objection when they do not believe in the actual product yet. And they also a sign of a lack of confidence. Most of the time, it's just because they don't believe in what you've got to offer, whether it be the opportunity or the product itself. If they believed in the product, what do the people do naturally for things that they actually like? They share, right? So talk about sharing versus selling. I love to talk about how if you see a really great movie or you go to a really great restaurant, what do you naturally do? You share it. But what is that? You're not actually sharing, you're actually selling. What we see as just sharing or clicking share on Facebook, what you're actually doing is selling. You're either selling a business or an idea or a product or something. If you're not selling something, you're being sold something. Always keep that in mind. Life is all about selling. So talk about sharing versus selling. If it's something they genuinely like, they would share it anyways, right? And so it's just lack of belief in the product. Or maybe it's actually they believe that this could be good, but they feel like they have a lack of confidence, or they're actually unable to do so. So if you could give the products a go and have positive results, would you want to share them with others? If they say yes, fantastic, awesome. Would you be willing to give the products a go then? And then fantastic, go from that point. Or if you could sell, would you be willing to get started? If we could teach you how to sell, if we could teach you how to share effectively, would you get started? If they say yes, of course, start them up. If they say no, ask them what's really stopping you, right? And so this is a great way to really help them understand, see from their point of view what's actually going on and how to actually get them started. All right, guys? And instead of handling objections. So remember, if you have any other objections or whatnot, let me know. I think we're really running out of time right now, so I'm going to really summarize right here. Remember, with the presenting, keep things fluid. Don't follow a script. Ask lots of questions and make sure you are handling what it is that what their focus is, and make sure you're answering that for them. Connect Usana with their hot button. Remember to close all the way through by using test closes. Ask them little questions along the way. Fantastic. All right, so about objections. Objections are actually great things. Do not take them personally. Find the real objections. Remember, if they have real objections, you just really need to answer some information. Give them some extra information to help them make that jump from whatever they are to an actual 10. Help them make the best decision for them. Be genuinely on their side, empathize with them, remember your own experiences when you were presented with this opportunity. And of course, you can never win an argument, so please don't go out there arguing with people. Be out there, help them make the best decision for them, and of course, ask lots of questions. So contact me on Facebook if you guys want to ask any questions that we don't have time for today. And of course, part 3 is all about following up on team culture, which we'll be doing next Monday night on the 10th of August. So I think that's it from me. Josie, is there anything else that we need to cover? Are there any pressing questions that I should address or anything like that?
Well, Raman, as always, that was a fantastic presentation. It was so logical and so clear, and I don't see any questions. So you have done such a fantastic job as always, giving our attendees so much value. So the recording of this training will be a really huge resource for associates around the world. We are grateful to you, Raman, and really appreciate all that you do for the Usana family. So ladies and gentlemen, next week, log back in at the same time to learn the phase 2 or part 3 of this 3-part series. So it's going to be on effective follow-up and creating team culture. So good night, everybody. And thank you so much for joining us. Thank you so much, Raman. See you guys next week.
Thank you, Josie. Thank you, everyone. Have a good night.